Start, sir.
Good evening and welcome you all back for Let's Hear My School. As usual, let's begin this with introducing our Swamiji, Brahmachari Maheshwara Chaitanya, who would do the honors of blessings from our Chancellor, Mata Martandamai Devi. So now may I request, before I request, let us go ahead with that blessings of Swamiji and then introduce Swamiji to all my new viewers. It's not that every time we have the same viewers. We'll also be having new viewers who are not so far heard about Swamiji. So let's go ahead and seek the blessings of our Chancellor, Mata Amritanandamayi Devji. Thank you, Swamiji, for showering your blessings to all the viewers. And we have here with us today a special guest. Before I introduce the special guest, a few words about Swamiji. Swamiji is a BCom graduate and then went on to do his post-graduation in Masters in Computer Application. He has over 15 years of teaching experience in computer science domain. He is the regional contest director for the most sought after programming contest, that is ICPC. And he is instrumental in bringing many of our Amrita students for this programming contest, as well as from outside Amrita. And the year 2018, he has been awarded the Leadership Award for his participation of over 10 years with ICPC. So congratulations to Swamiji, and we all pray that you must add more feathers to your cap. And of course, keep blessing us as you have been doing for all such episodes, what we have been doing for the last couple of months. So I have, in fact, each of you are waiting for introducing to the guest of ours. Generally, what I do is I keep asking a few questions about the guest, but in this case, I think it will be better for me to read out about our guest who is going to talk to us on a very, very, very important topic to all the teachers who are viewing, not only for teachers, even for any professionals for that matter. So she is Mrs. Anupama Ramachandra, who is the founder, principal of Delhi Public School, Electronic City, Bangalore. She has over 2 decades of experience in teaching at various levels, ranging from kindergarten to senior secondary level. I think that is quite unique, ma'am. Okay, Mrs. Anupama Ramachandra believes that education must result in empowerment with responsibility. With postgraduate degrees, both in English literature and in education, she has always been passionate teacher of English and an educational administrator who insists on total quality management. Her pursuit to inculcate appropriate language skills in her students encouraged her to become a University of Cambridge certified oral examiner for international English assessments. After receiving the rare honor of participating in the FCT program through the Nehru Fulbright Awards, her perspective of mobilizing available resources and involving the community for better education changed drastically. Post the US assignment, she has been actively involving the school in outreach programs, thus bridging the gap between schools and communities. She has received the Chanakya Award 2019 for excellence in teaching of English from the Public Relations Council of India, the Karnataka Shikshana Ratna State Award the principal par excellence from IIHM, Sri Shakti Samman 2020 from IUEF, to name a few of our personal achievements. Teacher training, community engagement, and connecting classroom teaching to real-life challenges are her areas of interest. She is a certified resource person for teacher training programs conducted by Central Board of Secondary Education, the city coordinator for national competitive exams conducted by NTA, National Testing Agency, and has been on review panels of subject-related publications. Having taught at various institutions across the country, she is currently the founder principal of Delhi Public School, Electronic City, Bangalore. Welcome to you, ma'am. Welcome to you for this session. For the next 60 minutes, we're going to listen to what ma'am is going to talk. And the topic today, what she's going to tell us is about professionalism. Many of you who've been watching this program for the last almost 8 weeks, I come sometimes on my t-shirts. I come, I don't think I've come on a tie at all. This is the first time I'm putting on a tie because I want to prove myself as some sort of professionalism when I present myself to ma'am for this particular Let's Hear My School. So that's why I'm wearing a tie. So don't be surprised. I wanted to look like a professionalist. So ma'am, I think you would have seen me in many of those episodes where I don't wear a tie. Sometimes you can see me in a green t-shirt or a very casual approach. So the first thing what I wanted is to prove myself as a professionalist. That's number one. And ma'am, you're going to make a presentation about professionalism for our teachers, right?
Yes.
Ma'am?
Yes.
And that's going to begin with a PowerPoint presentation, maybe for about 15 to 20 minutes.
Yes. Yes.
Based on your presentation, myself as well as Swami will prepare a few questions and then keep clearing our doubts with you, ma'am.
Sure.
So I'll keep talking till you bring in those PowerPoints of yours. Or if you have something to say in between now, you can say. But it's my pleasure, it's our pleasure from Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham to bring you into this particular live event, benefiting thousands of teachers who are watching us now and even later on. So officially, I welcome you, ma'am. So let's welcome you with a big clap. Swamiji, let's give a big clap to ma'am for her presence here. Over to you, ma'am. Over to you.
A very, very good evening, firstly, for that warm welcome accorded by Krish sir. With very, very humble pranams to revered Amma and to Swamiji. I would like to first state that I'm truly blessed to be invited by Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham to have a conversation because for quite some time I've been an ardent follower of all the discussions that happen here. And no matter what, even though it is evening, it is my nap time, I always set an alarm, get up and attend all these sessions. That is how engaging these sessions are, and to be talking as one of the presenters in such an engaging session is a true honor. I would like to thank Reverend Swamiji and Professor Krish for inviting me to come here and talk about something that I'm very, very passionate about. So without wasting much time, let me pull up my presentation. I would like to say a few things which I have in mind. And of course, I'll take all the questions that are coming my way. So just give me a few seconds while I pull up my presentation.
And for those viewers who are, yeah, it does come. Okay. You can show slideshow, ma'am. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, sir. Okay. So today we are all discussing a very, very relevant topic, that is professional development amongst teachers. So now, first and foremost, we need to look at the data of why we have to discuss about this topic at all, right? So according to India Today web desk, which was published as recent as May 2020, they say that there's a shortage of nearly 9 lakh teachers and qualified heads to pilot schools. So this is a very alarming data if I have to start off with that. First and foremost, there are no teachers at all. So the second follow-up question that I ask myself is, even when there are teachers, are they qualified enough to be preparing children for the future that we do not know of? Right. So and another, sorry to say this, but there's not much data to actually let you know what is the percentage of teachers who undergo professional, continual professional development during their service. I was not able to lay my hands on that data. Nevertheless, we know that in private schools, only 57% of the teachers were professionally qualified is what one data says, which is Young Lives India Policy Brief 4. This is the source. So this is again something that we all need to think, that we are all teachers in private schools. I mean, I would talk about myself. And if it says that 57 of the teachers there are not professionally qualified, this is something that we all need to keep in mind when we are having this conversation, right? And what is the definition of professional development? According to one of the sources, which is aussieeducator.org, it says professional development may be used in a wide variety of specialized training, formal education, or advanced professional learning intended to help administrators, teachers, and other educators to improve their professional knowledge, competence, skills, and effectiveness. Well, I'm very sorry, although I'm a teacher of English, this is too fancy a definition for me. To me, what is professional development? If I know something today which I did not know yesterday, that is professional development. It is as simple as that, that yesterday I didn't know something. It can be subject related, it can be a skill, it can be an attitude, it can be a piece of information that I got from TV. If I didn't know something yesterday and I know it today, that is professional development for me. So, and one more question that I would like all of you to ask is, you're all professional qualified teachers. Now, is the initial course of teacher education, which is B.Ed or a Montessori training, is it sufficient to prepare a teacher for a career of 30 to 40 years? You know, are we proving that if I do my B.Ed, then I'm good for the next 30, 40 years? Well, my question is, do you have the will to thrill? Okay, and this is a slide that I've got from the internet itself, and they say that what do teachers want from professional development, right?
Ma'am, your yes, PPT can move. You can put it on slideshow at least.
Sir, I have put it on slideshow. Is it not being seen?
No, it is just staying on the professional development, the first slide, ma'am.
Okay.
Now you come to the second. The tree is come now. The mind mapping. So, yeah. It is.
Shall I make it a slideshow, sir?
I think it is better. If you can make it to a slideshow, then it will be a bigger one. You can see this. Yeah.
Is it good, sir, now?
We are able to see. Organizer.
Sir, is it the will to thrill? Is it the second slide that has come up?
Yeah, that has come now. So you need to.
Okay.
You cannot.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's visible. Yeah.
Okay. So it is a slideshow that I am seeing, sir. Okay. So now, what do teachers want from professional development? They want it to make them a better teacher. They want it to make them practical and not theoretical. And they want it to be conducted by professionals. And, they want to know whether they're using the knowledge they have in the right way. Is it relevant for their students? So these are a few points that teachers would want to keep in mind when they are thinking of professional development. And they also want to attend these sessions. They want to attend. Many of the teachers are willing to attend sessions which aim at professional development. So then what is professional development according to all of us then? Sir, is the next slide up?
No, next slide is not up, ma'am. We are still on the will to thrill. Yeah, now, yeah, correct. Now the third slide is there, PD for teachers.
Yes. Okay, so okay, now the professional development for teachers, according to me, I've just broken them down into three very, very simple steps that we have to keep in mind. The first one is to learn. The second one is to create. And the third one is to share. And all of them are interconnected. It's not that we can do one of them in isolation, just learn and, be happy with it, or just think of sharing. It doesn't happen like that. All of these are in connection with each other. Now, why learn? Many teachers ask, ma'am, are we here to learn or are we here to teach? What do you mean by saying we have to learn? We have learned and now we have come to teach, right? We should all remember that there are many people who say that people who can't do anything else get into teaching. That is a very common joke that is there about teachers, that they couldn't do anything else, so they thought, okay, let us teach. Are we proving that this is true? You know, are we saying that yes, we are people who can't do anything else, that's why we are teaching? Or are we telling people that we are as dynamic as any other professional is? Okay, now why learn? We have to learn because, you know, as Dylan William has said, all teachers need to improve their practice, not because they are not good enough, but because they can be better. So the question we need to ask ourselves is, am I a better version of myself? You know, we see a lot of versions that are coming up, 2.0, 3.0. So we have to ask ourselves whether we are evolving into better versions of ourselves. And what do you learn? You have to keep updating yourself to start off with. You know, like for example, now the new education policy has come up. Do you know what the policy is all about? What are the salient features? CBSE has something called Diksha. It has something called, the other programs that they have for teachers. Are you updating yourself? Are you even checking the website, whichever board you are teaching? And due to some reason, sometimes we have to give up our educational journey also. So you can always get back to continuing your education, finishing off your degree, doing a post graduation. And of course, you can always acquire professional degrees like B.Ed if you don't have one. What is most important is we have to add skills. Are we talking about skills that are only related to our subject? Not at all. If you are truly interested in professional development, you should always think of adding skills that is diverse to the subject you teach, because you may be good in the subject you teach. You don't need much reinforcement for that. What you really need is to add different skills, you know, like communication skills, digital skills. You know, we are all moving towards digital literacy. So do we have that? And do we have creative writing skills? Do we have presentation skills? These are there are a lot of skills out there for us to learn. And how do we learn it? Fortunately for us, we are living in an era where everything is available on distance mode or MOOC, right? So we all know that MOOC is nothing but massive open online courses. There are lakhs and lakhs of courses that are available from reputed universities, and I would implore teachers to check out Udemy, Canvas Learn, Khan Academy, edX, Udacity. There are hundreds of platforms which are offering these courses online. And very, very important is, in our country somehow we do not focus on action research at all. The minute we hear the word research, we all get scared, right? We all say, oh my God, research is going to take a lot of time. We have to get away from work. It is not so. You can do research about everyday problems. Like, for example, if you have children, like every day at around 11:30, when you have a class with the third graders, you see that they're all distracted. You can do action research on that and say that why is it only at that 11:10 they're all distracted, but when I take a class at 9:30 they're all paying attention. So you just have to find the causes. You will have to find an intervention strategy. You will have to measure how it was before, how it is, and there you have an action research. We should all get into the habit of doing action research at our level so that we are able to find solutions to common problems. After you do your action research, what you should do, you should publish it so that we need not reinvent the wheel. If you have done action research on a particular topic, it is our responsibility to share it with the world. And of course, you can discuss, you can deliberate, you can attend seminars and workshops, and then you can be a judge at different competitions, like how, you know, we are all having a discussion today. Whether you're a participant or you're a presenter, you are eventually learning. So the next point that I want to talk about is
ma'am, I think you can just escape, press escape first.
I'm trying to do, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so next is, what do we create? What do we create? Well, for starters, you can create knowledge. You can create experiences for yourself. Self-help means, what I mean by this is, like, you have to do so many things today. Like, for example, today I had to create a PPT. Does it mean to say I go to my computer teacher and say, can you create a PPT for me? This is the content. Or do I learn how to do it myself? So what I did was, I just took an online tutorial how to use the various tools on Microsoft, and here I am presenting. I wouldn't call it a very presentable presentation, but then I'm very happy because I knew nothing of these tools. And I'm also working on another tool called Prezi, I was not very confident to use it. Otherwise, today I would be presenting a presentation with Prezi. So you can create opportunities for yourself. It is very incorrect for us as teachers to wait for opportunities and say, nobody is sending me to a workshop, nobody is encouraging me, nobody is helping me. You have to help yourself. It all boils down to whether there is intrinsic motivation in you to grow as a person and as a professional. And of course, you are creating joy for yourself. This journey is going on, but are you doing it joyfully is what you need to question yourself. Now, coming to sharing, the question is, are you generous enough to share what you know? Many times I have seen when we ask people for information, they hold it back. Somehow there is a myth, or they have this in their mind that if we teach them, they will become better than us. Believe me, if you are thinking of the larger good of the society, you will be the first one to collaborate and share what we have. Please remember that this whole system of education is like a jigsaw puzzle, and all of us don't have all the pieces. Sometimes we have to go to another person, another organization, another country. You have to go and you have to get that piece so that that puzzle is completed. So you need to reach out to people. You need to reach out to the management. You need to reach out to your mentors. You can either be a mentor or you can be mentored by someone. And you need to keep discussing. You need to have communication going on. And finally, you need to publish whatever you do, like I told you before, because it is a world of knowledge that you're creating for further use. Now coming to what are the, if you want to change, what is it that is necessary? First and foremost, there should be a willingness for you to learn, and you should realize that there is a necessity for you to change. Then of course follows the awareness, where you get information, you look at the problem. Every time there is a problem, we tend to just push it under the carpet. We'll see when it comes. Right now I'm able to manage. That is not a very positive approach. We have to anticipate problems and be prepared. And of course, you should always be positive, right? You should always hope for a change, and you have to think of the bigger picture of how your professional development is going to cause an impact on the society, on your school, on the children that you are educating. And then of course, why we all know that it is important for us to think of professional development, because you learn to manage your resources better. You learn to manage your time, the infrastructure, the manpower, the knowledge that you have. You manage it better so that when you're in the classroom, you use the time effectively for your students. There is also research that says that teachers who undergo professional development can impact better student outcome. So isn't that motivation enough for all of us to think of professional development? How? Well, like I told you, there are 1,000 ways for professional development, beginning from reading the newspaper. How many of us update ourselves about what is happening around the world so that we can have meaningful conversation with our children? How many of us are updating our knowledge? What we learned 10 years ago, is it relevant even now? How many of us are updating that knowledge? So it starts from as simple as keeping your eyes and ears open to going on to acquiring degrees, and of course taking up international assignments also, like how I did my Fulbright exchange program. When? I would say now. We need not wait for that. You have to start now. And of course, many people say, why should we do that anyway? We are teaching, right? Many of the teachers I've heard, when some other teacher is very enthusiastic of doing something, they tell the teacher, why are you doing this? Are they going to give you more salary? Are they going to give you a promotion? Nothing. You are going to continue what you're doing. So why are you innovating anything? Just let it be, right? We reach there anyways. Our retirement age will come for all of us. The choice that we have to make is, are we going to trudge along? Are we going to breeze along? Are we going to do with impact? Are we going to do with effect? Are we going to enjoy our experiences? Is something that we need to question ourselves, right? How do you want to get there is something that all of us need to ask ourselves. What kind of experiences, memories, contributions do you want for yourself and you want to make for the society is something that we need to keep asking ourselves. And finally, I want to ask all of you a question that, do you have it in you? Do you have all these wants in you, right? If you want to change, they say that you should have at least these 8 things, if not anything else. What is that? The first one is pedagogical knowledge. When I say that, I mean a basic content knowledge. And of course, the humility to accept that we do not know many things and we can learn it from someone else. Very, very important. If that humility is not there, we can never be a good learner. And of course, the vision that you will grow for yourself, you will grow for your institution, and most importantly, you will grow for your students. Collaboration is the way forward. It has been identified as a 21st century skill. We have to do it together as a team. That is when we will be more impactful in solving problems of the society. And of course, there should be a sense of priority that what you need to do first, right? There are so many things that you want to do. Please prioritize your wants as a teacher and make a list that first let me do this and then I will go to something else. And diverse perspectives are very, very important, because especially now, since the National Education Policy has come up with a flexible choosing of subjects for teachers, for students, you have to ask yourself, are you equipped for this kind of a multidisciplinary approach in teaching your subject? Or are you going to say that, no, I know only about social science, don't ask me about biology? Are you going to be rigid like that? Are you going to teach with a silos mentality like that? Is something that all of us need to ask ourselves. And finally, of course, there should be a balance between work and home, or your personal life and professional life, because many of them give up their professional development because they're not able to balance. They give too much of importance either to their home or to their work, which is why it becomes kind of tilted and then they give up. So we need to bring a balance, and we need to plan in such a way that both of it is not affected, because our families are as important as our work. Finally, this is the last slide that I have. What are the roadblocks that we have for professional development? The first one is lack of will. You know, when I put it here, I just thought of my grandmother, who's no more with me. May her soul rest in peace. She would always tell me that, Anu, there are some diseases which have no treatment. And I thought that lack of will is one such disease that nobody can do anything about. If you don't have a will, nobody can help you, get motivated to grow, to learn, to progress, and to equip yourself with new skills. Some of them find no purpose also. They say that, how is it useful to me? Anyway, I'm teaching, my children are doing well. We are getting a good board result, so why should I grow? So they see no purpose. Well, for that, I would say that the next point, which is lack of awareness, is the problem, because we are not aware of how the education system is evolving, not only in India, but abroad also. Many of our children are going to go out of our country to study. So are we preparing our children for that? Then sometimes there is lack of help, which is personal and professional. Some managements do not support teachers to take up courses. And sometimes personal help also they don't get, so they keep putting off professional development. Negativity is again, what does professional development value to my salary is what they think, or they feel that it's just a waste of time, there's no need. So negativity is again something that we need to get over. Time constraint, I have written no longer relevant, because now all these courses that I spoke about online, you just have to dedicate 2 to 4 hours a week. And I don't think anybody can say that they cannot devote 2 to 4 hours for themselves. So time constraint is no longer relevant, I feel. Even monetary issue, because most of the courses are free of cost. You need not spend the money, you get your badges, you get your certificates. Most importantly, there is learning. And the last one, of course, certificate, please. Many times I've seen now that after the pandemic has broken, many teachers will attend any workshop or any seminar only if there is a certificate. Now, is a certificate more important than learning is what I want to ask. Sometimes even if that session is not relevant to us, we attend because we get a certificate. What is the value of a piece of paper if we are not acquiring skills? So these are the roadblocks which we have to get over so that professional development happens without any break. And with that, I finish my presentation with a quote from Abraham Maslow, who says, one can choose to go back towards safety or forward towards growth. Growth must be chosen again and again. Fear must be overcome again and again. So only if there is a person who is ready to face fears, to come out of the comfort zone, to realize that we need to grow, whether there is immediate repercussion of you getting an increase in salary or getting a promotion, you have to realize that professional development is for yourself. You have to be selfish and say, I'm going to grow for myself. With this, I complete my presentation. Thank you all for this patient hearing. Now I'm open to all the questions that Swamiji and Sir has for me.
Madam, thanks a lot for your lovely presentation. Before you leave the PowerPoint, there is one gentleman, Gurumurthy, wants to have the 4 slides of your PPT shown a little more time. 4th slide of your PPT to be shown.
Which is that, sir?
I don't know. He said, is it possible to show the 4th slide of PPT for a few more seconds?
Sir, what I'll do is I will share the PPT with you.
All right.
That can be shared.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
okay,
if you want, I can open that and show them once again if they want to see that.
They have no patience to wait till they get it through the mail, ma'am.
Okay,
that was a wonderful presentation from you. So I think there is lack of patience among the viewers to wait and see.
Okay, sir. I will just pull it up for you.
It would be really nice of you to have shown it again. He's asking for the 4th. Mr. Gurumurthy, can you specify what slide you want to see it again?
Is it this?
No, we are not. I'm not able to see it now.
Just a minute, sir. Just a minute.
Okay, there is one.
Okay.
You can
is it this?
Is it why learn? Is it this? Mr. Gurumurthy, are you there?
This is slide number 4.
Yeah, then it must be this. Why learn? Yeah, I think that's correct because why learn? Because you didn't show why learn. You escaped why learn. Yeah, I think this should be. Mr. Gurumurthy, are you happy about this? Yeah, otherwise what I suggest is, ma'am, it should be that because why learn never came onto the screen.
Suddenly I'm sorry. Okay.
No. I think he just saw the glimpse of the slide and he couldn't really focus on this. I think Mr. Gurumurthy should be happy about this. Ma'am, you can go. I think now you can send us this one, and people who really are keen to have this PPT, you can always get in touch with us.
Sure, sir. Absolutely.
I want you to, before I start, all the questions will be led by our Swamiji, but then I take the privilege of asking you the first question. Can you repeat what you said about professional development? You defined, initially you said something in, maybe that Shakespeare in English. That you forget it. But you had a definition for yourself. You had a definition for yourself.
Yes,
what
sir.
You didn't know yesterday, if you know it today, that means you are professionally developed.
Yes.
Perfect, ma'am. Because I didn't know you yesterday. Today I know you. So I'm professionally developed. Fantastic. I think that is a wonderful definition which I catch up with you. That means you must be learning every day for you to progress in your profession, right? It's a continuous daily learning by the teachers, whether it is on a particular subject or not. If they continuously learn every day what you don't know yesterday, you know something extra today. That is professional development. Wonderful. Kudos to you, ma'am, for this lovely definition. There's one more slide which I saw, will to thrill, right? And you did mention in the last slide that most of the teachers don't have the willpower, right? Most of the teachers means 5% of the teachers. Otherwise, when I see them, they'll attack me. So 5% of the teachers, all the teachers who are viewing have the will to come and sit and watch you for almost an hour. That's the willingness.
Yes.
And you said something about MOOC, M-O-O-C. What is that, ma'am?
Sir, these are online courses, sir.
MOOC in Kannada, MOOC is what? This one only, no? MOOC.
Moogu in Kannada.
I said, what is ma'am talking about the MOOC? What exactly is MOOC, ma'am?
Sir, MOOC are online courses where right now I am doing a MOOC myself, sir. I'm doing a course called English for Journalism. Wonderful. So thousands and thousands of students all over the world are part of this course, and there is so much of, participation from all of us. And it is a time-bound program where they say that you have 6 weeks, you have 8 weeks. There are modules, there are quizzes for us to do. And after we do that, we get a completion certificate which says that we have gone through 8 weeks of this course. So this is free of cost, so we need not pay this.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so this is something that all of us can do at our end. Every day, 30 minutes you dedicate for yourself. I have already done 6 online courses from the time the pandemic has started. And, even before I finish one, I enroll for another so that there's no break. So
that, as you rightly said in the last statement, which I really appreciate, it is not for the certificate, right? It is for your gaining knowledge. Absolutely.
Nobody is going to believe those certificates.
Certificates come by itself, but then whatever you are enrolling into those courses, is for you to develop your knowledge and skills. Isn't it right, ma'am?
Very true, sir, because nobody is going to believe a certificate if you don't have those skills, because somebody checks those skills.
I used to show a lot of certificates when I go for interviews those times, and they used to ask me a lot of questions I couldn't answer. Had I not shown the certificate, I would have probably got to the interviews. I think you are right. Your advice to teachers and all of us is perfect. Ma'am, there is a question from Dr. Gupta from Hooghly, West Bengal, right? Eastern part of our country. Dr. Gupta sir, how important is self-knowledge for the professional development of a teacher? The question from Mr. Gupta is, how important is self-knowledge for the professional development of a teacher? Over to you, and then to Swamiji for his first question.
Sir, I presume when he says self-knowledge, he's talking about the content knowledge we have. Is that what he's referring to?
He has not referred anything, but then I presume the same.
Let me take it like that. Sir, that is the precursor for us to think of professional development, because till we do a SWOT analysis or we know what is our strength and what is our weaknesses, we will never embark upon this journey. If we are thinking all the time, I know everything, obviously you will not think of any development. So it is very important for you to evaluate the knowledge you have. It's very important for you to look at it in a relative manner, not in an absolute manner and say this is enough. You have to see, in other environments whether this knowledge is enough to take our children from this level to another. It is very important to evaluate yourself. Only then will you embark upon a journey of professional development.
Wonderful. Being an English teacher, ma'am, you've been able to create those PowerPoints. This is wonderful. Congratulations. As you rightly said, you have to help yourself and nobody is going to help you, right? I really appreciate the sentence, what you said, that if you have to make a PowerPoint, you can't go to the computer science teacher and say, ma'am, please help me out to create a PowerPoint. It's wonderful. So you have to help yourself. Now, my help is over. I'm going to Swamiji to help us with few of his clarification with Anu ma'am. Over to you, Swamiji, with your first clarification.
Ma'am, I have 3 questions for you.
Oh. No. It is
first question.
It is the beginning, madam. I changed. It's the beginning 3 questions of Swamiji.
Most welcome, sir, because Swamiji's questions I see always makes the speakers think. What can be better? That mental stimulation is something that I really look forward to.
I saw your message this morning. I passed it on to Swamiji. Okay, last evening. Okay.
No, ma'am. In fact, the much appreciated fact is that you have brought all the essential requirements of a teacher under a tree. So that is the best part of your presentation. And in a nutshell, in fact, you had hardly 12 slides, and out of 12 slides, you have captured the entire life of a teacher in 10 slides. That is the beauty which I see, which means that it's very, which means that is very crisp and clear on the entire career life, entire career of a teacher. So what is it that a teacher is required to make sure that he or she is on the right path to learn? And from my own teaching experience, what I have seen is that subjects keeps changing, syllabus keeps changing, topics keeps changing. Now we have technology also in hands, and we cannot just stop learning. So my question is it like, how is it possible for a school teacher, an average school teacher, to keep his or her track in teaching? Basically, how do they earn the skill to learn by themselves?
Thank you, Swamiji, for that question. Swamiji, what I personally feel out of my experience, I'm a teacher now for almost 3 decades now. I became a teacher not by choice, but by chance only. Somebody told me there's a leave vacancy, why don't you join? And I joined, and my husband happened to keep traveling to different states because of his nature of job. And wherever I went, I found that teachers' jobs were always available. So, that is how it started off. And today I can't think of anything else other than being a teacher. So what is very, very important here, Swamiji, is to first think whether you are doing justice to your interaction with the children. That is the first and last question any teacher should ask herself, because as on today you rightly pointed out that knowledge or information is available at a click away. Children don't need teachers to teach them what photosynthesis or to teach the meaning of Romeo and Juliet. In fact, there are online resources which do better than us. So what is our role as a teacher? Our role as a teacher is to motivate the child to be an eternal learner. How do you do that? You do that by being a role model yourself. You know, I keep sharing my children that today I'm very happy children today because I finished this, and can you see the badge I got today after I finished this course? And the children are like, oh my God, this old woman is still interested in learning. What are we doing? We're all very young. We need to keep studying. So the best way to motivate yourself is you have to keep asking yourself, am I doing justice to the children for whom I am here? Because you are a teacher for the children, not for anyone else, right? Yeah. It's not for the parents. It is not for anything else. It is for the children. So if you keep asking this question every day in the morning, and I'm a firm believer of reflective teaching also, Swamiji, where I feel at the end of the day, you have to spend 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, and just say, did everything go well in the class today? Was I able to satiate my child's keen enthusiasm to learn? Was I able to ignite that spark that he has to find more information? You as a teacher need not give all the information, but you have to ignite that spark and tell the child that, come on, go and look for this information. Many times when, even though I know something, I tell the children, I really don't know, I've not come across. Tomorrow can anybody find out this and let me know? So there are many ways in which you can keep learning yourself, and you have to keep motivating yourself by telling that I am going to do this for my children. I'm going to do this for my children. I don't think any other motivation is required to be on path or on track, Swamiji. This is what is my opinion.
And ma'am, you are into this professional development. So how do you make sure that the teachers are able to come out of the fear? Because I know that we have seen even in news saying teachers are hesitant to come online. Teachers are hesitant to teach online, and they are hesitant, or they have a fear to embrace this whole technology. So what is it that your advice is, or what is your advice on coming out of the fear?
Right. So thank you, Swamiji, for that question again. I remember one of your conversations only in one previous session where you told all our teachers have been thrown into the water. Now they have to learn to swim. Right. So I could relate to that statement so well that if you're going to wait for an opportunity to learn something, that is never going to happen, because what is the opportunity, right? The opportunity comes when you anticipate problems, and you need to make this every day. You know, I have heard that very famous people like Bill Gates or Sundar Pichai, they all dedicate 5 hours a week to do something for themselves. So we need to dedicate some time for ourselves also, although I know for teachers, it is not easy. You know, it is more easier said than done, that you have to take out time. It is very difficult, but you should make it a point that, okay, let me spend 30 minutes a day, right? Sometimes you won't believe I'm listening to lessons even while I'm cooking in the kitchen. I keep my laptop open, I'm listening and I'm cooking. I'm sure if you have a will, there is a way to make time, and it should start from day one, Swamiji. You cannot wait that, okay, let me finish 10 years of my teaching, then I will see what I need to, because every day the system is evolving. Today, the whole world is running on data. So as soon as you see numbers, you should be able to interpret that to your advantage. So it is very, very important. And you rightly pointed out that many of us suffer from technophobia. As soon as I say technology, we take a step back. Well, if you're not ready to evolve to love technology, please note, all teachers, you are going to perish. You know, there is data that says that out of all the professions that are going to disappear because of automation, teaching is going to remain there. Only 30% of the teachers will go. Who are these 30% of teachers? They are teachers who do not want to evolve. If you do not want to evolve, you are going to perish. If you want to remain in the system, you should evolve.
Yeah, in fact, I wanted to bring that also into my question. I always watch the as you just mentioned, I keep reading about the technological updates, and when the robotics and automation process happen, and teaching is the only field where it is least affected. As you told, maybe 30% of the teachers are affected, and at the same time, that emotional connect emotional connect between the student and the teacher. And
Yes.
I just wanted to bring in one more aspect into it. See, we hear a lot of news about the social media being misused by the children. So how will you, or what is your recommendation, what is your advice for the teachers to manage such kind of students, to handle such kind of students, to bring those students into the core academics, or because what I have seen is that notorious students are always brilliant.
Yes.
They have excellent skills. The only thing is that we should be able to bring them to a level where we can utilize their skills.
Yes.
So once we are able to engage them well. So what is your advice to teachers to bring this also into their in the teaching methodology?
Yes, Swamiji, that is.
Swamiji, I was also a notorious student.
You are even now notorious.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, it is a common perception that the very intelligent have a streak of craziness in them. So, that is what makes them different from others. So having said that, Swamiji, what you asked is a very, very relevant question, because many times we ourselves stay away from technology, and many parents also tell us the minute we give them some kind of a project to be done, ma'am, what is this? You are encouraging my child to sit in front of the screen. Well, whether you give them a project or you don't give them a project, children are going to sit in front of the screen, right? So the secret is, how are you going to engage the children to such an extent where they do what they have to do and then they're tired. They say, now I cannot work on the screen anymore. So as a teacher, you should know how to engage them digitally so that they are able to focus on the positives of digital use. And for that, you yourself as a teacher should be a digital user also. You cannot do, many times I've seen, Swamiji, with all due respects to all teachers, many times I've seen that even in the classes, for them to switch on the smart board, they have children only coming. The teacher will say, come on, switch it on, bring up my presentation. What is the message you're giving the children that, I don't want to use technology? So obviously you are giving a message to the children that you can use technology the way you want. As a proactive teacher, you have to use, or you have to give assignments to children in such a way that they use it for so long that they are doing your projects, they are pulling out information or whatever. After that, see, too much of anything is too bad for children, and even children also realize, like for example, they like ice cream. It doesn't mean that they'll eat a gallon at once. They can only take as much as they can. So we as teachers should engage the children in a positive way so that they are engaged for them to know how we can use the digital platforms for their positive growth, because they are going to be, and anyway, they are all native digital users. They were all born into, digital gadgets and everything else. So it is our responsibility to educate them that there is a positive use of something, there is a negative use of something, and we can only do it by being role models.
Okay. Ma'am, I think I'll postpone my question to the end. There are a few questions that have come up which are so interesting. I would request Krish to read them out.
Yeah, I will do that, and that's my job. So Dr. Gupta wants those PPTs to be sent. He has given us the email ID. So, ma'am,
certainly, sir, I will share it with you.
Pass it on to him. Even there's somebody else, anonymous. I cannot send it to anonymous unless you give me the email ID. Then Mr. Gurumurthy, he has mentioned massive open online courses.
The
MOOCs, yeah. You want to say something, or you already mentioned about it? Or you
Sir, I don't know. What do they want to know? I already mentioned some of the platforms also.
Which that platform. Yes. Then again, Mr. Gurumurthy has come out. Good question raised by Krish. Thank you so much. About certificates. So he agrees with both of us regarding the e-certificates. More than certificates, the knowledge and skill what you need to develop. Can you elaborate on the Microsoft Shields based on course that you were talking of? Can you elaborate on the Microsoft Shields or skills based course that you were talking of? I think the question seems to be not that clear, so we can skip that. Spell out MOOC, you already done that. Mr. Gupta has no audio at all. I think it's not from our side. Maybe something is wrong within your side. Madam, post the address of online education. Could you again present the website address for online courses. Ma'am, you can send it to me. I will send it to them. No issues at all.
I'll do that, sir. I'll do that.
Because there are so many you did mention. If you can send me those IDs or email IDs or websites, please.
Surely, sir. I'll do that.
Ma'am, under MOOC, many organizations like Coursera and others are there. Could you please suggest which one we can opt? They want you to choose the best.
Sir, now these courses are available with different subjects. You know, for me, I like to choose topics that would complement what I do at school, because I teach the senior secondary students English. I teach, so I do that. And I have a lot of interest in writing. So that is the reason why I'm doing English for journalism right now. But you can do a lot of courses on designing, on data analytics. There are courses on photography. There's courses on design thinking. So I would not recommend any particular platform, sir, because these courses are available on different platforms like Canvas Learn has a few courses, Udemy has a few different courses, Univarity has a few different courses. So you will have to go online and check which is the course you want, what suits you, the time and everything, and you can choose, because all of them are good. They're all very, very reputed platforms. So I would suggest that you please explore what would suit you best as far as the time and the content is concerned, and you can opt for what suits you best.
Okay. Wonderful presentation by Madam, informative and interesting. Thank you so much for commenting and giving the feedback. Thanks to organizer. Thanks to Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham for organizing this. Maya wants to know, is unlearning equally important as learning and relearning?
Very, very important, sir. Thank you, Maya, for that lovely question. I would say more important than learning is unlearning, because our brain also can take only that much. If you're going to accumulate all the lessons that you learned when you were a small girl and say that this is relevant even today, you will not be able to learn new things. So, you know, this happened when I went to the US on my Fulbright scholarship. When I went there, I thought that I knew everything that I had to as a teacher. But believe me, when I went to the US, where I had to teach in a school in California, I just realized how ill-equipped I was to teach those children in the US. There are days when I've actually cried and said, how do I engage them? Right? So what I had to do was I had to unlearn what I had learned back in India, and I had to learn new ways of engaging these children, you know, content, task-based learning, content-based learning, teaching grammar communicatively. All these things are some things that I learned new. It would not have been possible had I not moved away from what I was doing for so long, which I thought was good enough. So it is very, very important. That is a cycle actually. You learn, you unlearn, you relearn. Right? So unless and until this cycle, this dynamic cycle is always in progress, you can never learn new things. So very, very important to unlearn and relearn.
Unlearn, learn, relearn is the new funda. Please listen and put yourself into this particular advice of ma'am. But unlearning is not that easy, no, ma'am. I mean, whatever I've learned, it is not that easy to unlearn.
Yes.
Any way of suggesting us as to how to unlearn? You can forget what you learned. If you ask me, I can take a session how to forget what you learned. But to unlearn is a bit difficult. Any ideas? I'm just, if you have anything in your mind, you can tell us. Otherwise, I move on to the next question.
Sir, I feel, at least in my experience, I feel unlearning should have a surgical cut. Okay. You know, there is no gradual way of doing it unless and until one day you just tell yourself that this is no longer relevant. Let me move on and learn. You are not going to unlearn, and unlearning should not consume so much of your productive time also. Once you have realized that this is not working out too well, when you reflect upon your daily lessons and you feel that what worked with a batch some 2 years ago is not working with this batch, you just need to innovate yourself and think of one of an out of the box ideas to come out with something new. So unlearn should happen with a very conscious state of mind.
So unlearning is not just forgetting what you learned. Please.
No, not at all. It is to build on that. You build on those.
If it is that, I can take a special session on that, how to forget. That's a different thing. Ma'am, yes, there is, I think that is how to evaluate our professional development. You have time, right, ma'am? You have time with us?
Yes,
right?
Sir, absolutely.
How to evaluate our professional development. We are talking about developing ourselves through various initiatives that you have just shown on your PowerPoint. But how do I evaluate that I have professionally developed from this level to this level? Is a question from one of those teachers who are watching us. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. So yeah, evaluation is very important in any system, right? Whether it is school, whether it is professional development of teachers, we have to keep revisiting our selves. So how do you know you're professionally evolving is if you are able to handle the classes, the situations that come up, if you are able to converse with teachers, if you're able to contribute to a conversation that's happening universally, you know that you are evolving. There are different levels of professional development, and as far as I am concerned, I feel teachers should not be too obsessed about evaluating themselves. It is an ongoing process. This is continuous professional development, or CPD as it is called. This has to be a continuous process, an everyday process. So somewhere maybe once in a year, you know, like in schools, we have a time where you have to appraise yourself. In our school also, we have a system where the teachers do self-appraisal. We have a column there where the teacher says, what are the new skills you added on? What were the new courses that you did? Did you apply for anything? Did you attend any seminar? Did you publish any paper? Did you do any action research? So this is a time once a year, probably you can evaluate yourself and you can consolidate all your development. But otherwise, professional development should be a continuous process which happens each day.
So which means you can self-evaluate oneself, right, ma'am? Instead
Yes.
of the school, like the principal or the management evaluating a particular teacher, a teacher
Yes,
can sit and then evaluate herself or himself as to
Yes.
how much one has progressed in their professional career.
Very
Isn't it?
true, sir.
Self-evaluate. Okay, if that is the case, it's true. There is one teacher who was asking as a question, ma'am, what do you think is the future of teachers with the introduction of virtual website or applications like Merit Nation and Byju's app? What is the future? The teacher is a bit worried about the future when you have these new apps coming up. Will their be safe? Will they have the future to teach, or some sort of confusion in their mind? I think it's better that you give them a concrete confidence. Yes, nothing is going to happen to them. It should be a positive.
Yeah, so I would like to assure
the
why,
teacher. Madam, you said 30%. You mentioned something now. So maybe particular teacher would have fallen to the 30%. How to get out of the 30 and get into the 70%? Over to you, ma'am.
Sir, I would like to reassure all the teachers who are listening to all of us today that, like I told, teachers are here to stay. Today, in fact, my husband was reading the newspaper and he quoted some astronomical amount and said that these many crore rupees are being spent on tuitions in India, right? So that has always been there. Even when I was going to school, there were people who were going to tuition. Back then, it was considered to be a matter of disgrace. If somebody told our children are going to tuition, we were put to shame that you don't know anything. That is why they're going to tuition. But now it is a matter of pride. So there is a paradigm shift in that. But what I would like to say that tuitions will be there, sir. Wherever you have some service which is being given in bigger institutions, there will be a lot of private players also. We cannot do anything about that. But you have to keep asking yourself that, am I going to let these people take over my job? Am I letting these people make the child realize that we are no longer relevant? So you have to perform in such a way that the children feel that no matter what the tuition classes equip me with, it is very important for me to go to class. So what are you giving other than just these question papers? Because all those tuition centers are doing nothing but they're only preparing you for assessments, right? They're not teaching you about any values. They are not teaching you about any 21st century skills. They are not teaching you how to collaborate. They are teaching you how you can perform as an individual. So are the teachers thinking that we will be reduced to that? Never, sir. We have a much bigger role. Teachers are always going to be here because, like Swamiji pointed out, we are here to create that circle of life for them, that circle of love, that caring, that nurturing. We are here. And no Merit Nation or whatever they have quoted is going to do that, sir. So we are all going to be here. But having said that, teachers have to be very conscious that they have to always be better than those people. You cannot just say that we are here, so you have to come to us. Children are not going to come to you if you're not worth it. So that is the bottom line of the entire concern.
Ma'am, I appreciate the level of confidence that you've shown and expressed that nothing is going to happen as far as the teacher's profession is concerned. It's still being considered as the most noble profession across the universe, no doubt about it. But again, if you use two words in English, but and if, so the entire science changes. So you said there is nothing to worry, but you mentioned So there is a bit of a fear in that but what we are trying to say is that let's keep changing, and let's keep developing our profession so that we don't get into those 30% of teachers which madam mentioned now. Let's keep progressing on a day-to-day basis by continuously learning, and what you didn't know yesterday, if you come to know, you are slowly developing. What is the definition what ma'am has mentioned. There is one question then I'll put on to Swamiji. Can you suggest few efficient ways to adapt and develop to new things within a short span? Vishnu wants things to happen in a very short span, because I appreciate that, because there's no time for us today. We are so engaged and engrossed in many activities. He wants to develop that professionalism in his teaching career in a short span. How do you do it, man? How do you do it? You said 6 months and 1 year. He doesn't want to wait so long. Absolutely lack of patience. Over to you, man.
Sir, don't we all tell children every day there are no shortcuts to success? That holds good for all human beings, whether you're a student, whether you're a teacher. If you want things to ripen naturally, if you want things to mature in a very natural way, you have to give it time. So if you're looking at quality professional development, it is going to take its time. If you want it to happen overnight, I'm very sorry, sir. Till now, I have not figured out any such way of overnight professional development.
Maybe today you look at people, today you get chapatis, ready-made chapatis, you buy those chapatis, put it in that, you get it within 2 minutes. Earlier you used to have that atta. So he's that type of a modern teacher. So that's why he is asking, not to worry. So my dear friend, Mr. Vishnu, for good things you'll have to wait longer time. So there's no shortcut to success on professional development. This is what ma'am says. You draw inspiration from, where do you draw your inspiration from? Maybe a question to you. And how do you keep yourself motivated? Ma'am, you have been noted as the most motivated personality in the teaching community. Rupa Aradhya wants to know as to who is your inspiration and how do you keep yourself motivated even at 5 o'clock in the evening. That's what.
Thank you very much, Rupa, for recognizing me as a motivator. So, sir, for motivation, I don't look at anything outside of me. Absolutely. Motivation should be intrinsic, and every day I tell myself in the morning that what am I going to do? At the end of the day, I sit and say, what did I do? So you have to motivate yourself. You cannot let external forces either motivate you or even depress you, because we do not have any control over what is happening around us, right? But we do have control about how we think, how we want to stay positive, because at the end of the day, you have to tell yourself that it could be worse. I tell all my team of teachers that this could have been worse. This too shall pass. Stay positive. We are all in a very happy place. Look at all the people who are suffering. So you have to keep motivating yourself that you have been given this noble opportunity of touching lives of children. How many people get that opportunity? It is a calling, I feel, to be a teacher, although many of us have joined this profession by chance, but I feel it is a calling for each one of them to continue in this profession, because there are so many professions. For a person like me who can write reasonably well, who can speak, who knows English, I'm sure there are other possibilities for me to engage myself. But I feel that this is a calling for me, and I have been blessed by the Almighty to touch lives. So every day, if I'm able to motivate a particular teacher to learn something new, if I'm able to make a child realize that he is meant for bigger things, I feel that my life is worthwhile. So I look for motivation to grow within myself. How am I able to contribute? How can I, motivate my team of teachers? How can I? And whenever anybody asks for help, if they ask me one thing, I tell them 10 things, because I feel that knowledge grows only by sharing. So, and there are so many people who call up and say that, ma'am, it is because of you I did this. Ma'am, you motivated me. What else motivation do you need when people are telling me that I was able to, make them think how to grow? So this is my reason to be the way I am. And even for my happiness, I say that I am responsible for my happiness. If I want to be happy, I can be happy. If I want to be unhappy, I will be unhappy. So all of you out there, please look for motivation within yourself. There is nobody who's going to come and motivate you the way you motivate yourself.
A lucky husband, lucky children. When you ask for 10 rupees, I'm sure you'll be giving 100 rupees to them. Anyway, very lucky, very lucky. And when I meet you next in Bangalore, I'm going to ask you some money, ma'am.
Sure, sir.
Money.
Sure.
Very good. That's a point here. And there's one more question, and then there are a lot of questions coming. I don't know. I don't want to cut it off. I don't really want to cut it off. Why? Because there are some how can one increase critical thinking in students, those who are not interested in study? So some teacher wants to know that students are not really keen on studies. She or he wants to improve their critical thinking. Will it be possible, ma'am? Because I'm not interested in studying. How will I start thinking critically? Even normally I don't think. But then how do a teacher teach me how to critically think? Is it possible? If it is possible, some ways to do it. Otherwise, we go to the next question.
Sir, it is 200% possible.
Possible. Okay.
Anything is possible if you want to do it, right?
Okay,
so
okay.
Now what is critical thinking? Critical thinking is nothing but skills to solve a problem. You know, how are you going to transfer your classroom learning into everyday life? That itself is critical thinking, where you are using the knowledge you get from textbooks to solve everyday problems. So the best way, the easiest way to develop critical thinking is to connect the children to the outside problems and challenges. You may be giving the best lessons inside the classroom, but if you do not take them out into the outer world, because many of our children are growing in very protected and pampered environments. So if you are thinking that you're going to teach critical thinking inside the classroom, I'm afraid that is not going to be possible to a large extent. Take them out of the classroom. There may be a problem in your own school, right? There may be a problem outside of the school. There may be a problem in the community. There may be a problem in Bangalore. Take them out and make them interact with these problems so that they come up. And believe me, when children are exposed to such problems, they come up with better solution than adults. What else is critical thinking? Critical thinking is nothing but encouraging children to use their knowledge to solve problems. So please take them out of their classes. Design projects where they have to think outside of the lesson. Don't just restrict to question answers and say that you are done. Please think of innovative ways of teaching the lesson and connect it to everyday life. That is a sure shot success to develop critical thinkings in the child, whether he likes to study, doesn't like to study, but he would love to go out and use his skills to solve problems for someone.
Wonderful. A very positive note, Madam said it's all possible. She has never said nothing is possible. Everything is possible, right? There's no word of impossible in your dictionary, I'm sure about it. Rama Devi KP, she says, really wonderful session. Please share the presentation. I will share a number with all of you, right? On a chat box, you can always WhatsApp your requirement for the PPTs. I will only be too pleased to send you those PPTs once I receive from ma'am. And the last question which I would like to put it across to you is, how do we bridge the generation gap that exists between the digital natives and us and engage the multitasking curious students? Should I repeat? How do we bridge the generation gap that exists between the digital natives and us and engage the multitasking curious students?
Okay, so thank you, sir, for that question. Now, my question.
Vijayalakshmi ma'am is the teacher who has asked this question.
Yes, sir. So my answer is, my answer is in the form of a question. Why do you want to bridge the generation gap? You know, this generation gap is a very, very overhyped term, which I feel, because if you think of our parents and grandparents and our children and grandchildren, there is something that all of us can bring to the table, right? What my grandfather can contribute to a conversation, I cannot. What I can do, the children cannot. What the children can do, I cannot. So somewhere I feel that generation gap is not to be so much focused on bridging, because the difference in generations will come only when we are rigid about what we believe in. So once all of us are ready to look at another perspective, in my presentation also I was talking about different perspectives, we should be open to look at the same problem from another's view also. What is their perspective? Is it possible? So when you do that, there is no generation gap. So there's no need to focus so much on bridging generation gap. It's all about how many steps you are ready to walk and how many steps the younger. And when you walk, the children also walk towards you. So that is mutual. And it is very important for us to make the children understand that, there is something that the old people can contribute, which you cannot. Like, for example, last week I taught a lesson called Ranga's Marriage for Grade 11, written by Masti Venkatesh Iyengar. So that story was written somewhere in 1910. So I told the children, if you have grandparents in your house or you have some old relatives, even if they're not in their house, call them up and ask them what is the story behind their marriage. If you thought that it was very simple, it was an arranged marriage, very boring, I said you will fall off your chair when you listen to their interesting stories. So talk to them, and when they spoke to them, they came back with such interesting stories and said, ma'am, we were quite shocked to know that this is what happened before behind them getting married. So somewhere I made them respect their grandparents for what they had to contribute. So all of us have to understand that all the generations, and many times we as adults also write off what the younger ones say. No, you know nothing. We know, we have seen life better. It is not like that. There are some things which they know better than us. So learn that from them. You teach them what you have and tell them that together let us create a world of knowledge. I'm sure nobody would have a problem with that. And multitasking is not only with the children. You also as a teacher should be multitasking. You should be able to teach, you should be able to evaluate, you should be able to counsel, you should be able to meet parents, you should be able to go out with them. So multitasking is for all of us. Don't we all multitask? So it's not only for the younger ones.
Absolutely. Madam, just out of the way, this 1910, that Naidu, that story, that marriage, was it a love marriage or arranged marriage?
No, it was a kind of a love marriage from the groom's side.
Oh, okay, okay.
Ranga was in love with that girl.
Okay. So in 1910 itself, all this was there, right?
Yes,
okay,
yes.
So, okay, fine. So, okay. Now I think it's the time for Swamiji is waiting there eagerly to ask. He generally asks you trillion or million. You would have heard him ask a lot of questions. So he's kept that $1 trillion or $1 million or $1 billion question in the final stages of our discussion. So I would now leave the microphone with Mr. Brahmachari Maheshwara Chaitanya ji to ask us last concluding questions, which could be million, billion or trillion. Over to you, Swamiji, for your final take.
Ma'am, it was a wonderful, and I would say that it was a vibrant session today. Even during the huge rain and storm, it was really good. So my questions are basically two. One is that you mentioned about the new education policy, and you very specifically mentioned that it is going to be interdisciplinary.
Yes.
Which means that one teacher cannot just confine to his or her subject.
Yes.
They have to open their mind now.
Yes.
Which means that so far, maybe for the past 10 years, I was teaching computer science and I am supposed to learn biology today. To understand how this computing is applied in biological or life sciences. Similarly, somebody who was teaching mathematics, or you take English, they are supposed to learn data science and data analytics, and as you rightly said, it is interpretation of the data, because data is getting more and more valuable than human life. Data is more important now. So what is it that you recommend to keep their mind open? Or how do they open their mind, which was so far closed and confined to their own domains? And I want you to today give the teachers a goal, a long-term goal, maybe for the next 5 years. By the time the new education policy is implemented, what is it that you will say that they should reach to this level? So what is your recommendation on that, so that they can easily embrace the new education policy?
Thank you, Swamiji, for that brilliant question. So like you rightly pointed out, new education policy does talk about flexibility for the students to choose subjects in the school itself. So, you know, I am most encouraged, and I am eagerly looking forward to a day when a child can choose biology with music. You know, so which has not been possible, whereas the Western countries do have this kind of credit system where they can get credits in different subjects that they choose from. Now, as teachers, what should we do to develop this interdisciplinary? In fact, CBSE has always encouraged teachers to plan interdisciplinary projects, at least 2 per year. So what they are meaning to say is that whenever you are planning a lesson, think about the other subjects also which are involved. Like, for example, if I have to give an example of my own teaching, the students and I read a story called The Address by Margot Minko, which was written at the time of the Holocaust. right? So when we did that lesson, what I did was I completely turned it into a flipped classroom where I did not teach. I made the children into groups and I told one group of children to think of the historical background of the story. I told one group of the children to think of the geographical background of the story. I told the other group of the children to think about human emotions involved in the story. And the other one, I asked them to think about the flow of events, how they have done. Now, I took up only 4 topics for convenience of time. But believe me, Swamiji, any topic we teach, if we just go a level deeper, if we go below the surface, we will see that there are other implications also.